It is impossible to save right now. This is coming from somebody who's a really good saver. The fact that I have done less this year and yet I still have nothing to save is wild to me.
Do not confuse a higher salary with financial freedom. 40% of earners over $300,000 live paycheck to paycheck.
You don't need to stare at the screen for this one, bro. Whether you're cooking, cleaning, in the gym, working, or whatever you're doing right now, you could just put this on in the background and listen. Because in this video, you're going to hear a lot of real examples and statistics about why high income earners are earning paycheck to paycheck. And to be honest, mate, you'll probably feel better about your overall financial situation after watching this video. Not because other people are struggling, but because you'll realize financial stress is substantially more common than you think and than people would admit. And this isn't about slating anyone, it's just because cost of living is so substantially high, and it makes sense. But because it's so high, everyone is feeling financial pressures right now. But what matters from this, my friends, is that we learn from these situations. And to learn from these people in these videos that are earning so much income, but why are they not wealthy and why are they struggling and living paycheck to paycheck? Because I genuinely believe someone on a normal salary who manages their money well, invests consistently, and just have overall good discipline, not even great, just good discipline, they can massively outperform someone that has even a great six-figure salary, but don't share these same behaviors and traits. And today we're going to see exactly why that happens. So let's just get into it. The content in this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. I'm not a financial investment advisor. Nothing here should be taken as financial advice or a recommendation to buy or sell anything. Always do your own research, and if needed, speak to a qualified professional before making any financial decisions. Some links in this video may be affiliate links, which means I may earn a small commission at no extra cost to you. All opinions are my own and based on publicly available information. Never rely solely on information from the internet when it comes to investing or money.
It is impossible to save right now. This is coming from somebody who's a really good saver. The fact that I have done less this year and yet I still have nothing to save is wild to me. I don't go out to eat, I don't get drinks. This is the least I've ever traveled. Shopping sprees are very far and few between. Also, I'm spending less money on rent, and yet every single one of my paychecks is going towards some sort of bill, an adult related thing I don't want to pay for, like insurance, my car repair, maintenance on my HVAC. I mean, I feel like the list is endless. Long story short, everything costs too much. There's so many hidden fees, so unless you ask for an itemized report of what exactly you've been charged for, you're probably paying more than you're actually supposed to. Companies want to pay you less, the cost of living is rising. As an example, the way that I used to make $3,000 a month when I graduated college, and yet I was still able to save about $1,000 a month, I can't do that anymore. Ways that I could stretch $100 when I was in college does not go far now. Honestly, if you can, move home with your parents. Pick up a side job. It's only gonna get worse before it gets better. What really enrages me is when the economy is up, the prices go up, and then they never come down. And even when the economy is not doing good, those prices never come down. And guess who suffers? All of us. If anyone has a good side hustle that doesn't take money to start, let me know, because I think we are all struggling and it would be really helpful. Bye.
I'm sure this honestly will hit home for a lot of you guys watching this, myself included as well. And me and my friend had similar conversations about this all the time, just about cutting back on costs, making our own food at home, still going out, but going out for nice long walks or hikes instead of going out on ridiculously expensive vacations. And I feel that's sometimes the part that messes with your head, because it feels like you're doing the right things, but you're not seeing the progress. But the thing is, what most people realize is that cutting back costs can really only take you so far. That's not actually the part that makes you wealthy, because cost of living is going to rise exponentially and consistently going to rise. Inflation is not going anywhere. It's unfortunately here to stay, but investing is here to stay as well. So therefore, the best counterattack is you have to grow your money as well as cutting back costs. And initially, if you think about it, you're actually cutting back costs to have more money, which now you can invest more of it or save more of it, whatever your goal from it is. And that is why you'll see in this video, especially the last videos, the statistics in them are crazy. And it's why many high income earners feel stuck too. Because if your money is not working for you, it doesn't matter. Inflation will eventually get you. Inflation will eventually eat your progress. And in my own opinion, again, this is not financial advice, but I solely believe in this, and it's one of the main reasons I've made this channel, to help you guys out, or at least to help you realize how important building wealth is and how important building assets are along the way. Cutting costs and saving will never be enough. But before we dive further, my friends, I want you to see this video right now with some very important statistics that you need to pay attention to before we view the other videos that are even more crazy.
Percentage of Americans living paycheck to paycheck based on income. Paycheck to paycheck can be a nebulous term, but in this case, it is clearly defined by the Bank of America study, which was published in October of 2024, where they defined paycheck to paycheck living as someone who spends at least 95% of their income on necessity spending. Said a different way, this means that after they've bought everything they need in a month, they have little to nothing left over to save, invest, or spend on fun things. This study actually uses hard data versus just people's sentiment or opinions as it relates to their money, which I think makes it more accurate. Overall, the study found that about 26% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, but the incomes that they focus in on begin at less than $50,000 all the way up to $150,000, where I think the data is most shocking, so stick around for that. To begin, those making less than $50,000 a year, 35% were found living paycheck to paycheck. For those making $50 to $75K a year, 24% paycheck to paycheck. For those making $76 to $100, 23% living paycheck to paycheck. For those making $101 to $125, 22% living paycheck to paycheck. For those making $126 to $150, 21% living paycheck to paycheck. And finally, for those making even $150,000 plus, still 20%.
Comment below if you're shocked by these numbers, because if I was watching this video, I would be commenting all over this video, because that is crazy. 150K plus, not around 150K, 150K plus, and 20% of them, meaning 1 in every 5 people are living paycheck to paycheck with that absurd amount of income. Of course, obviously you're going to get taxed substantially more, but don't forget your net pay will be higher. So it still means that their income is higher. And this is why, again, my friends, in my own opinion, income does not equate to wealth. Behavioral traits do. Doesn't matter your income. It really does not matter. I'll say it again. Your income does not matter. Say it with me one more time. Your income does not matter. Obviously, you have to earn money. You know, you have to be able to actually pay your bills. I get that. So it does matter to an extent, but those crazy high 5-figure, high 6-figure, or even just low 6-figure, those high salaries do not matter. Even though, yes, it would be fantastic to have them. But if you don't have the right behaviors set in place and the right disciplines and consistencies and actions, you're not going to build wealth in the long run. You're just going to be a rich guy and spend your money on fancy things, looking rich rather than being rich. And I don't know about you, but I'd much rather prefer to be rich rather than to act and look rich. Let's see the next clip to see more of where this money goes.
You make $200,000 and still live paycheck to paycheck? Well, after taxes, my take-home pay is only $127,000. That's still a lot of money. Subtract $1,000 for health insurance. Mortgage is $5,000. Utilities and home expenses are $800. Car payments are $1,000. Groceries are $900. Fun stuff is $1,000. Gym is $150. Kids' activities are $250. And other bills are $500. So you have nothing left to save or invest. Nope, it's called lifestyle inflation. The more money you make, the more money you spend.
This is such a brilliant demonstration of how high income earners live paycheck to paycheck because of this. I'm just looking at her payments and expenses just now that she shared. This is in my own opinion, of course, but health insurance, fine, fair enough. And by the way, I have a very important analogy that I'll share with you straight after I talk about this. So just make sure you pay attention because it's a very good one and I think it will really change the way that you see being rich and being wealthy. And it's something that I just thought of on the spot right now, to be honest. So I'm quite happy with myself, I'm not gonna lie. But with this lady, she's got health insurance, which is fine, fair enough. Obviously you need that. I live in the UK, so it's a bit different because I understand this is in America. Her mortgage is $5,000, which is just crazy. I mean, this is the thing. If her take-home pay is $10,600, that means she's actually paying around about 50% of her take-home pay towards a mortgage, which in my opinion is just way too high. If you guys know Ramit Sethi, I really like him. I think he's a very, very good person in the personal finance space. He suggests anywhere between 28 to 32% of your take-home pay. And I understand that's going to be quite hard because obviously homes are exceptionally expensive right now. But in my own opinion, you should really try and aim as close to those numbers, especially on the upper end of 32% as much as possible, because it really will help for you to actually be able to afford your home. And like he says, taking into account phantom costs as well, which are just crazy anyway. Let me know down in the comments below if you would rent or buy your home, as this is actually a very, very popular debate and actually one with I would say both equal pros and cons. So it really depends on you. Car payments can easily be eliminated. Just buy your cars outright. There's no point to have $1,000 in car payments. Like, I understand you need to wait and save money, but this is the whole point. Think about that $1,000 car payment she's going to have for God knows how long the loan period is. And everything else looks really all right. But that mortgage and the car payments are always both the highest expenses of anyone. So if you can lower them down, even downsize and go to an actual smaller family home, like, it's all right. But this, in my opinion, of course. But now the analogy that I was going to say, the takeaway from this is that wealth isn't about how much you earn, but it's about how much you can keep and grow. And this is what I mean by that. This is where the analogy comes in. If you imagine a plant, right, in a pot, someone that's rich would buy 10 or even 100 watering cans, but not consistently water the plant, compared to someone that has one watering can, but he takes care of that plant every single day. Which one between the two plants do you think will actually grow more? Of course, it's going to be the second option. It's going to be the guy that's taking and looking after every single day. It doesn't matter how rich you are. It doesn't matter how much you buy, how many watering cans you buy to grow the plant. Even if you have one watering can, aka even if you have a lower salary, but on that lower salary, you're consistently investing, you're consistently growing or building an asset. Even if it's an online business or a side hustle, you're consistently growing something. And especially when it comes to it, the power of change comes from daily actions. And it's why so many people on big salaries feel stuck.
Do not confuse a higher salary with financial freedom. 40% of earners over $300,000 live paycheck to paycheck in 2025. Clearly, income isn't an issue for these people. $300,000 is a lot of money. So what's going on? Well, typically for these people, their fixed costs will be incredibly high. Their liabilities will also be incredibly high. So typically, their fixed costs might include their mortgages. It might include any car financing. It might include any, sending children to a private school, anything like that. And all of a sudden, your fixed costs are incredibly high. So what does this do? It absolutely anchors you to the salary that you're currently earning. You cannot afford to stop working that very same job in the same location, etc., etc., because you just don't have the capacity to stop.
And as we saw from the video just before this video, this is exactly what's happening. The expenses and the liabilities of these people are substantially higher. Instead of downsizing to a more affordable mortgage, they stay there because it's obviously harder to change, and people don't like change. And even their down payments on their cars, their loan period, the average loan period is like 3 to 4 years. Imagine $1,000 every month for 3 to 4 years. Instead, you could have bought your car outright and actually save that $1,000, which could be distributed towards, or even just go into investments. You cannot tell me a 300K salary and someone's living paycheck to paycheck. This is insane. And 40% of them, that means 1 in basically every 2 people with that salary is doing that. I'm just like, no, bro, that's crazy. I mean, don't get me wrong. The statistic could have just been, the statistic could have just been wrong, and this guy could just be, chatting shit. I personally, though, to me, that I don't think he is, because that does sound about right. But even if it was wrong, there are people on that salary that are living paycheck to paycheck. Remember from that other video, 150K plus is 20%. Which is still crazy. Why do you think so many high earners live paycheck to paycheck? Guys, comment below and you let me know. I've already addressed enough reasons from these clips. Higher salary equals higher taxes. True, it does, of course. But even if that is the case, you still have a higher net pay than someone that is on a lower salary, of course. So it doesn't really matter. You still need to actually utilize your money accordingly and grow assets. And you see people are comfortable going out, spending time with their friends, etc. Yes, it's important, but they're completely neglecting investing and growing assets. And I will not shut up about it, because that is so important, because time is truly the only intrinsic asset you have. It's finite. There is a limited supply of it. Eventually, me and you will die. And if you manage, I hope you manage, of course, to get to 60, 70, even 80, 90 plus years, when you get to those ages, your body will be weaker. You will not be able to work as hard. And you need something to support you. It's good to enjoy life now, but you cannot neglect building your wealth. This cannot happen.
I'm tired of living my life in survival mode, because despite having 2 college degrees and making close to $80,000 a year, I still cannot keep up with the cost of living. I still cannot afford all of my bills every month. and have to live paycheck to paycheck. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I am sacrificing my mental health, my time, and my energy to take care of people in their most vulnerable moments, and a lot of the time they do not make it. At the very least, I should be able to pay my bills. And for anyone who's thinking, oh, well, you shouldn't have chose that job, somebody has to do it. And you know damn well, if your loved one was critically ill, you would want somebody to take care of them, right? Something has to give. I cannot keep doing this.
This one actually hits close to home for me because it sounds like this lady works in critical care, so she's probably a nurse or a doctor or something like this. I work in oncology, so I fully understand how much energy, stress, and emotion it takes on a daily basis, like especially when you are working, because the hours are super long. Although I do enjoy what I do, but still on the day when you are working, you do really feel it. And it's so funny to me how these people that are obviously clearly educated, like this woman, 2 degrees, 2 degrees, working long shifts, working long hours, being promoted, actually being at a good level in her career, and they're still worrying about bills. And the main point of it is because the industry that she's working in don't pay her in commissions of, like, let's say in sales, which is why sales, although it's high risk, it's a very high paying job, potentially, if you are good at it. The whole point of what I'm saying, because I can digress, is degrees don't matter too much, clearly, because people that have degrees, they're obviously struggling. And this is not the only one. I'm sure there's so many others on TikTok that I could find. And just in general in real life, there's so many more. If you think about your workplace right now and your colleagues, think about how many of them struggle, even though that they're probably on a good income and they're probably even your bosses. And this is the reality for so many people, even on a high income, because rising costs slowly swallow everything, slowly destroy everything. And it's not that they're failing, it's that the system is making it harder and harder. And if you're not adapting and you don't develop the appropriate behavioral traits to, again, take action and grow your wealth, or just even develop these important habits to be able to build wealth, then you will eventually get left behind, because inflation will just destroy you, because saving can only protect you so much. Your income is what keeps your life going, but your assets are what changes your life and gives you the freedom to do what you want.
A lot of high-income families are living paycheck to paycheck. We just don't say it out loud, because it sounds wrong. We're supposed to be grateful. We're supposed to have it together. That's what actually happens. Income goes up, and so does everything else. The house, the vehicles, the groceries, kids' needs. There's no room to breathe. I remember when we first started out, my husband and I were making minimum wage, and we feel like we had way more money then. So everything looks fine, but it feels tight. And stress isn't dramatic. It's quiet. It's constant. It's always there in the background. This is why so many families feel exhausted, even when nothing is technically wrong. It's not failure. It's math. Plus pressure, plus responsibility.
This is probably one of the most honest descriptions and confessions of financial stress that I've ever heard. And the thing is, exactly like this lady said, because sometimes financial stress doesn't look like a crisis, but instead it looks like a constant responsibility without having any margin. So you don't have anything to actually invest in. You don't have anything to enjoy your life with. And that is a crisis, but a very quiet one, because you're running a life that technically costs what you are earning. So your input is the same as your output. So therefore, if that's the case, you'll never be able to pull the lever and get your outputs to be substantially higher. So therefore, you're always going to be stuck along the same way, aka living paycheck to paycheck. In my opinion, my friends, excluding childcare and groceries, obviously those are fundamentals, I would say, for families, but the 2 biggest expenses, mortgage and car payments, if you can, make sure that you can actually afford your mortgage. And this is currently why I don't have one, because I literally cannot afford it at the moment. And it's why at the moment I'm saving up for a bigger down payment to be able to get those mortgage requirements where they need to be. And obviously I'm very thankful because I have the opportunity for this. And I would prefer not renting and just wasting money, because it will take substantially longer. Just use whatever you have to your advantage. But whenever you do it, make sure you run the numbers for the mortgage. And don't buy cars you can't afford outright, because the excess payments afterwards you would have paid for your loan period, that money you can invest it and it will grow substantially more over a period of time. In my other videos, I talk about this, and a car is not worth the price it's worth. A car is worth closer to the price of a whole person's retirement. If you saw how much the car payment, instead of it being an expense, how much of that money you can invest and how much those investments would be.
According to The Independent, most millennials are living paycheck to paycheck, and even people on a high income are still feeling like they're scraping by. That means if you're somebody right now but you feel like money's always tight, there's nothing left over at the end of the month, and it's really, really frustrating you are not the only one. So many people feel like this. And so did I not so long ago. I remember feeling so frustrated by my finances. And here's the funny thing, I'm well educated, and you probably are as well. But it felt like my education prepared me for basically everything else in life except for how to handle money and make it work for me.
That is the number one most important skill in wealth building, because you can't fix what you don't understand. And building money gets a lot easier when you do understand it. But awareness is the first step, as well as taking daily action, because that's the only way you'll move forward ahead, my friend. The best time to learn about money was years ago, but the second best time is right now. And building wealth is special because it's something that requires time. The longer you delay it, the harder it will become to accrue wealth later on. And it's not me saying it to scare you, it's just basic maths. The longer time you have for something to compound, the more it will grow. And the less time you have, the less it will grow. This is why I always talk to you, my friends, about daily action. Big wealth is not built in a big moment. Becoming super rich from a lottery, yes, you can do, but it doesn't necessarily equate to being wealthy. Because real wealth, in my eyes, is built in small steps consistently over time. And time is the only thing, again, that you can't get back. That's why being around like-minded men matters so much. Because when everyone around you is learning, investing, and taking daily action, discipline just basically becomes second nature to you, and it becomes easier, and consistency becomes normal. And this is why, my friends, I've made this online community for you guys, and I'm more than happy to answer your questions in there as well, because consistent daily actions changes your life. If you want to learn more, my friend, the link is down below. And please remember, my friend, you're not bad with money, you just never were taught the rules. People that are already wealthy, they've taught their children the rules because, well, they're already wealthy. That's sort of the point. But like most of the people, when you don't come from that background, it's harder to learn. Once you understand the math behind compounding and understand that it's way easier to be part of a group that are on similar financial journeys, then you win by default. And you get to make friends along the way that are interested in the same things as you too.
A third of people making six figures are living paycheck to paycheck. And that makes people irate.
A third of people making six figures a year are living paycheck to paycheck.
One paycheck
month to
doesn't
month.
show up, they're screwed.
Really?
That was a shocking stat. That wasn't even Ramsey research. That was outside research. We were like, that makes sense, because people calling the Ramsey show just this last week, we're taking calls from people making 190 grand, 250 grand, and they can't breathe.
Why?
Well, you start adding up all the toys they have and the luxury cars. They got $60,000 car loan here. They're underwater on it. It's only worth 40 now. And they bought a house that was a little too much house. They bit off more than they can chew, and the mortgage payment is 60% of their take-home pay. And so you add up all that, and they got a credit card balance now, and they got the personal loan, and they still have the student loan, and all of this just compounds. They have no emergency fund. 4 in 10 people have $0 in savings. And so you add up all these stats, and you're going like, America has become land of the free and home of the broke. Like, how did we get here?
On the surface, six figures really sounds like you've made it, but again, the statistics prove to us that it's not the case. Because this is the number everyone keeps chasing, but again, my friends, please ask yourself, for what purpose? Even a high five-figure job. Obviously, it's great to have, don't get me wrong, but just please remember, and I'm going to reiterate it again, without having the behavioral traits and the habits, by adapting those to your wealth building journey, you're not going to succeed, because you will just spend more than you earn. And if you stack together, we're in the UK, so it's not as bad in terms of like the university loans, because you don't really pay them. But in America, it's actually a actual debt. So if you're from the US and you're watching this, then you've got student loans, you've got car loans, and adjust it to your own situation if you're from the UK. But you would have student loans, car loans, mortgage, grocery payments, subscriptions. My friend, if this is not budgeted well and managed well, you will never be able to build wealth. And especially if you're doing this by yourself and you're alone and you don't know what you don't know, right? And you don't really have anyone to talk to, then it makes it even harder. Which is why I'm saying it's better that you're part of a group that have their own life, but still focus on this stuff as well. And when you see these expenses stack up together and you're biting more than you can chew, you understand very quickly from these clips, at least I hope you've understood, why these savings disappear so quickly.
A study came out that 47% of Americans who make $150,000 a year to $200,000 a year are living paycheck to paycheck. Now, some of you are thinking, how in the crap does that happen? If I was making $200,000, I would be fine. And it just proves the point, you guys, that so much of personal finance, it's your behavior, it's your habits. I mean, lifestyle creep, it's a real thing. When you're used to living at 100 grand and then you make 120, you get used to that, and then you get used to 140, and it keeps going up. Regardless of how much money you make, your habits really do form around your income. And so that's why you have to be so careful. So don't always have hope that just because my income goes up, I'm gonna be okay. Because the truth is, if you have bad habits and you make more money, you're just gonna make bigger and bigger mistakes. But if you have great money habits and you make more income, then that's a blessing because it's going to be used to your advantage.
It's funny to me as well, actually, because I was the same. So we all have to start from somewhere. It's funny that when someone thinks that they hit a certain number, they're like, that's the specific number, that when this hits, everything will be okay and suddenly life will get super easy. When actually it's, again, the daily actions, the daily habits. I've automated my investments so that I invest every single month. So I literally, I'm not even joking, it takes me probably less than 10-20 seconds a month. Just literally Face ID, bam, cool, gone. That's it. Just to make sure all the payments have gone through, everything's all right, that I've got my tax relief on top of that, so that my overall monthly contributions are there with the tax relief, and it's done. That's it. Literally takes me less than 20 seconds. If you want to be super critical, 30 seconds. Because of the Face ID, sometimes it can be a bit crap. But other than that, that's literally all it takes. Just because of that one small action, obviously it depends where you invest in, the research about it, etc., stuff like this, fair enough. But just because of that one small thing that I've automated, and that it's like a set and done sort of deal, again, you have to research, but just because of that one small thing, that is so ironic to me that that is the difference between someone being wealthy and not. Literally just that. And someone retiring comfortably and not. And someone having a lot of money and not. It's actually incredible to me, to be honest. Because the same way good habits scale positive actions, bad habits scale negative ones. And not only that, whilst you're going along this path, you're running out of time again. Because in this case, time is wealth. So therefore, by definition, actually, time is money. That myth, that phrase that you've always heard in the movies, in my opinion, actually, that is very, very true, especially when it comes to wealth building. You don't need to be the best person with the best income and the best rich builder, but you need to be a good wealth builder, in my own opinion. And especially as men, we want to provide, we want to be able to support our families and support our loved ones. And therefore, this, to me at least, is an absolute non-negotiable every single month. And respectfully, my friends, if you're not doing this, then I really think you should wake up and start taking action towards this, because financial security is imperative, especially in this day and age with the rising costs and inflation going up, and they're not going to come back down. And even if your wages increase, which they most likely inevitably will, it will be disproportional to the rising costs and inflation. So we really need to make do with what we have now and get those behavioral traits and those characteristics that are good for wealth building, and to think with a strong financial mindset right now as soon as possible. Because if you have these traits on a lower income, when you have a better income and a higher income, it will amplify everything substantially more.
My husband and I made $150,000 last year, and we live paycheck to paycheck. Let's talk about it. I never thought that I had a problem or that I needed to learn to budget until I realized that we spent $150,000 last year, and I have nothing to show for it. I mean, I have a house, I have a car, I have all those things, but they're not $150,000 worth. So where did the money go? I spent it. That's where the money went, and that was what I wanted to change. That's why I did a low buy year. That's why I'm budgeting as hardcore I am. I use 3 different spreadsheets to budget, and that might seem insane, but that's what I need to do in order to have it all managed. I need to look at my money. I need to stare at it. I need to think about it. It needs to be on the front of my mind, because if I passively use it, then I'm not paying attention and I spend it all. And that's the truth.
This is probably the most important clip of the whole video, and the reason being is because it's so honest. And this is a real person, a real couple even, earning over 150k, and they're still living paycheck to paycheck. And exactly what she said is the reason why. Budgeting, not paying attention. Because when you don't pay attention, you pay with your own time. And as we've learned in this video, time is finite, and you do not want to pay that. You want to utilize it as much as you can to actually invest and grow your wealth. And if you are in a situation similar to this woman, exactly what she's doing, which is stop blaming it on inflation, stop blaming it on all external aspects and focusing on the internal aspect, which is herself. You have that income. That is what you have currently. What are we going to do now? How do you deal with it? Let's look at the numbers, run it, and sort it out. That's why budget's so important, so you could see clearly where everything is going. You need to see where each monetary unit is going, each pound is going, each dollar is going. You need to see this, because then it stops becoming a guessing game, and then it can actually become a structure and a strategy for you, and not assuming, like most people, that next year will magically be better. It's like going to the gym, doing a bicep curl, and then hoping that your arm becomes like Arnold Schwarzenegger's in his prime. It's just not going to happen. You need to have a focus and a structure to be able to build that bicep, or in this case, the monetary muscle, which is wealth. And not only that, making sure that you have enough money to pay off the essential bills and not spending any unnecessary expenses to things that are not relevant to what you actually need, and spending them on what you want. Wealth does not begin when you earn more. It begins when you start paying attention. Make sure to like and subscribe to these videos, my friends. I make a few videos of these every week. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this video and what we talked about, and what future videos you'd like to see too. Any future videos that are suggested down in the comments below, I'll make sure to give you a shout out in that video. And YouTube recommends you watch one of these two videos over here, my friend. Click one, and I'll see you over there.